Hi. I talk to a lot of my clients about a technique known as diaphragmatic breathing. It's a method of breathing that helps reset your stress reduction response in your body. Unfortunately, it's often taught incorrectly and in ways that increase the stress response in the body. So I wanted to make a video to give you a little bit about the purpose and the process of how to do the exercise. And then I'll make another shorter video that just goes through the diaphragmatic breathing, like a guided diaphragmatic breathing exercise, so that once you get this little educational part, you could always download the other onto your phone and have a guided diaphragmatic breathing exercise available at your fingertips. You won't need it very many times because it's pretty quick and easy to learn, and then you can use it in all sorts of situations. But definitely watch this video first so that you'll know why you need to do it and why it's going to be helpful. So for many of us, we are constantly on the go and we get a whole lot done, but we don't get a whole lot of being done. And that sounds foo-foo and all sorts of new agey, so let me back up a little. Let's get to some science. What we know about the setup of the body is that we have an autonomic nervous system, and within it, it's broken into two parts. We have the sympathetic nervous system, which is your friend when you're in a crisis. It's got the fight, flight, or freeze response, so it responds to danger. And then we have the parasympathetic side of the system, whose job it is to turn off the sympathetic side and to allow the body to recuperate. So we should be spending most of our time actually in this parasympathetic side. Unfortunately, the way that our lives are currently set up, we have so many stressors and even low-level stressors that our bodies can't tell the difference between real danger, like a lion is chasing you on the Sahara and you're going to get killed by it if you don't have a huge response, and daily dangers, like, oh, I missed an important email from my boss. And so what happens is the sympathetic nervous system stays on high alert or at least low level alert much of the day, unless you have a really great parasympathetic nervous system that's just chilled all the time and turns it off for you. Unfortunately, most of us don't have that, or most of us are in situations that don't allow for that. And so it becomes important to learn to actively turn your parasympathetic nervous system on, because our daily lives are keeping the sympathetic side on far too long. So when we think about what's happening in our body when our sympathetic nervous system is activated, you notice that you breathe more quickly. Often we breathe higher up in our chest. Our heart rates go up. You might feel gastrointestinal distress as your body gets prepared for fleeing or fighting. You'll notice that the core of your body gets hot, but your hands and feet might get cold. Depending on how long the stressor is in place, you might notice tension in your muscles who are like contracting and getting ready to fight or freeze. So you'll notice the response showing up in multiple areas of your body. Fortunately for us, we only need to knock one of those dominoes over for the rest of them to fall in line. So one of the easiest dominoes to knock over is around respirations. So it's a little bit harder to warm our hands, for example, when we're in the middle of an important meeting, but we can certainly regulate our breathing to kick on that parasympathetic nervous system response. So here's how we're going to do it. If you put one hand on your chest and you put one hand on your belly, you're going to notice that when you take a big inhale, if you're like most people, you're going to feel that hand on your chest move. Now, if you notice when babies breathe, if you lay them on their back, their cute little Buddha bellies will move up and down with their breath. And that's because they're breathing through their diaphragm. As we age and we start learning how to talk, we tend to move our breath up into the chest. You may have noticed sometimes that when you start feeling really stressed, you might feel like you can't get a full breath in. You're breathing deeply, but it feels like you can't expand your lungs completely. And sometimes that's because as we get anxious, our muscles also get tighter, including the muscles around our rib cage. So there's not as much space for you to breathe in your chest as you might normally. Now, you don't need to let that stress you out because your body is built to last and you will always get enough air. Your body will certainly take care of that for you, I promise. What the problem tends to be is that we start then hyperventilating and taking in more gasping breaths. and we don't expel enough air. And so it frustrates me a little bit when we call it deep breathing, because what most people hear is take a big breath in. And that's actually going to fuel anxiety. It's not going to reduce it. So instead, we really want to focus on a prolonged, very slow exhale. And we want to exhale until we're all the way empty, and then we want to pause. And we want to inhale gently and maybe halfway. And then we want to slow exhale deeply until completely empty, and then pause. I'm going to move the camera down just a little bit because I want you to be able to see what it looks like in the belly when you're breathing through your diaphragm. So give me just a minute. Sorry for the blur. Okay. So if you have a hand on your chest, a hand on your belly, if you breathe in the belly, you'll notice this hand comes out. And as you exhale, we want it to go all the way in. Inhale, just halfway. Exhale. Pause. Inhale. Exhale. Pause. And hopefully you may have noticed that the hand up here was not moving very much. If you're at home and you can practice this there, it is easiest to practice first by laying on your back because you can feel the hands move a little bit more. Don't freak out if your upper hand is moving a lot. There's some tricks to learn how to breathe deeply through your belly, and by deeply I mean on the exhale. So the idea is picture that you have a straw going from your mouth, bypassing your lungs, and filling up the belly like a balloon. When you inhale, you're going to let the belly expand just like a balloon. And when you exhale, it's almost like you're deflating it by pressing on the belly, and the air comes up. So it'll get into your lungs, no worries, okay? Just inhaling in the belly. Now, when you first practice this, you might notice that you expand your belly a lot, and that's an okay start to the practice because we want you to empty the belly a lot, so much so that it feels like your hands are falling towards your spine. But then we really want the focus to be on a very gentle in-breath. So maybe you're only filling the belly halfway. You might notice, you can even kind of notice the sensation as it falls away from the front of your pants. And as it fills, it might gently touch the front of your pants again. You don't need to press hard. You just need to notice the sensation of full, and exhale. Some people find that it's helpful for them to count when they're doing this, and I find that's particularly useful for people whose minds will wander and worry. So if your brain is easily distracted, then you can focus the mind by using counting or even a mantra or a saying that's helpful to you that you pair with the breath. So you might say, inhale for 1, just gently, and pause at the top, and exhale, 1, 2, pause. Inhale gently, 1, pause. Exhale deeply, 1, 2, pause. If you do this exercise 10 times, so 10 breaths, and you did that 10 times a day, what we're finding through the research is that if you did that every day for 6 weeks, you reduce your stress response so dramatically that that will last you for over a year. And we only know this for a year because that's all that we've measured so far. So could be longer, we don't know, and hopefully you'll do more than 6 weeks. The benefit of reducing your stress response is twofold. First, the lower that we can get your baseline stress response, and you may not even feel that you're stressed because it's kind of this low level thrumming in the back of your mind. Just imagine if you're on a beach in Cancun with a lovely little beverage and a little umbrella over your head and in the drink, imagine how you feel there, and anything above that is evidence of your stress response, okay? So we want that stress response to be as low as possible. So doing this 10 times a day, every day, starts moving that baseline level of stress response lower and lower. Now, we're all going to have stressful things that happen in our days. We can't help that. But if your baseline stress response is way down here, it's going to take a huge thing to kick you up here into panic or irritability or aggression. If instead your baseline is here, it doesn't take quite so much to kick you up here into that place of panic or irritability or anger. So we're going to use it to decrease the baseline level of stress response, but then benefit, you can also use it during stressful situations. So I've practiced this so much that now my body naturally gives me a very long, slow exhale when I'm starting to feel irritated by something. So it's a dead giveaway if you know me personally and all of a sudden you see me taking a very slow exhale, something probably irritated me. Fortunately, most people don't know that that's what's happening, and it's pretty hard to see if you're doing it well. So practice it. When you do this in real life, obviously you're not going to walk around like this. This is just for practice, and you can practice it lying down or sitting up or standing up. But you'll notice that it will start to become natural for you, and you will recalibrate your stress response without even thinking about it. But first, we have to make it a habit. So every day, 10 times a day, 10 breaths each time. It's hard to remember to do that, so many people that I know will set an alarm to go off a certain number of times a day. If you have a bladder like most females that I know, you're going to the bathroom 10 times a day, it's a great time just to remind yourself, like, okay, while I'm not in the office, I can do that while I'm here. Whatever it is, it's going to help you remember. Maybe when you wake up and right before and after every meal, and right before you go to bed. That might also be a way for you to pin it into your day. I hope that that's helpful, and I'll make another video that just has the breathing guided so that you can use that in moments where you're practicing through the week rather than having to listen to an entire educational video. But I do hope that it was helpful for you, and if you have questions or other things that you'd like me to cover in these videos, please let me know.